Mirror, mirror on the wall. What's the most pointless remake of them all? Technically this is a 3, but tell me anyway. That's the one. Once upon a time in midwinter, when the snowflakes were falling like feathers from heaven, a queen sat sewing at her window, which had a frame of black ebony wood. As she sewed, she looked up at the snow and pricked her finger with her needle. 3 drops of blood fell into the snow. The red on the white looked so beautiful that she thought to herself, if only I had a child, as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood in this frame. Soon afterward, she had a little daughter, who was as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony wood, and therefore they called her Little Snow White. And as soon as the child was born, the queen died. It seems to me that she made a deal with the wrong god, or possibly Mephisto. It's always Mephisto. From all the remakes that Disney has ever made, Snow White is the worst one. I know that the movie isn't out yet, but that doesn't really matter. It's true that I never liked any of the Disney remakes, simply because they didn't have to exist, and also because they are testament to Disney's lack of creative prowess. Easy cash grabs made to fill the void. But while I was reading various articles about the Snow White controversy, I realized that among all of the remakes, this one alone really shouldn't exist. Disney should just scrap it like Warner Brothers did with Batgirl. This is not a joke anymore. Snow White is really the most pointless remake of them all, and here's why. The fragment that I read before comes from Little Snow White, a German tale written by the Grimm brothers. Whether you know the tale or not, by now you probably know that the name Snow White comes from her skin being as white as the snow. It's kind of hard to miss. And what about the dwarves? Oh no, the dwarves were transformed into a merry band of colorful hobos. Is this cultural appropriation? Probably. Is it disrespectful to the source material? Absolutely. Are making changes like that always bad? No. Is it bad in this case? Yes. I am always open to new interpretation of already existing stories. After all, I love The Witcher, and most of The Witcher short stories are different spins on classic fairy tales. It even has its own version of Snow White. When you adapt source material to different mediums, some changes are necessary, even if you want to be faithful to the original. The iconic Eye of Sauron is not in the books, but Peter Jackson added it to give the villain a physical presence in the world. And that was a good decision, because it makes the movies, the story and the world better. The change worked in the service of the movies. That's the trick. All changes have to be justified and made for the story's sake, to make your story better. Or when you are retelling an already existing story, your changes should at least not make the story worse. Changing the Little Mermaid's skin color won't make the story better or worse. But what if it did? Little Mermaid's skin color doesn't matter. Little Snow White's skin is, however, story relevant. And I'm not even talking about her name. No. Snow White is not a regular, ordinary white girl. She is very much out of the ordinary. She is literally not like the other girls, because she was born out of her mother's wish. In the entire kingdom, there is no woman with hair as black as ebony, skin as white as snow, and lips as red as blood, because no one else in the entire kingdom performed human sacrifice to get a daughter. This is what makes her unique. It's what makes her beauty stand above mere mortals. This is the reason why the freaking mirrors say that Snow White is the fairest of them all. There is literally no other woman that looks like her, because her looks were enhanced with some shady magic. And her mom died for it. Maybe. It's never actually explained in detail, but some sort of magic is clearly involved in it. Mommy makes a wish, and she gets exactly what she wished for. A daughter that looks like a vampire. I should probably point out that in the original version, the mother never dies. She is the evil queen. She wishes to have a beautiful daughter, and then she gets upset about it. I'm not a fan of that version. But in both stories, Snow White's exotic look sets her apart from all the others. She clearly not supposed to look like every other Caucasian woman. So Disney's hatred of white women not only doesn't improve the story, but also creates confusion and weakens the entire premise. The actress playing Snow White look rather ordinary. I mean, she is good looking, but there is nothing unique about her. Also, the evil queen is played by Wonder Woman. I don't really understand your casting choices, Disney, I really don't. About the dwarves. The magical dwarves, mythical creatures from German folklore. Remove the magic from the story and we are left with this crap. Instead of 7 dwarves, I don't know, 7 mental institute escapees. I thought Disney was about spreading magic, not removing it. And all of this is thanks to Peter Dinklage, a rich and famous person who just happened to be a little shorter than any regular sized man. But here's the thing, most vertically challenged people are not rich and famous. Most of them will never have the opportunity to play in something as big as Game of Thrones or a movie like Cyrano. So maybe Mr. Dinklage shouldn't speak on behalf of this community, because besides the size, he has very little in common with them. Also, dwarves are magic. They are not the same as people with dwarfism. If regular-sized people can play elves, let short people play dwarves. Neither of those fantasy races is worse than the other. They both have their perks. Why would you treat being a fantasy dwarf as an insult? They're awesome. They are one of my favorite races in books, video games, tabletop and other fantasy related media. But my biggest issue with this movie existing is that this movie already exists, and I'm not talking about the animated one. A story about Snow White becoming a badass woman, great fighter and an amazing leader. What an original idea, a truly modern take. Oh, and it's already been done. Dear audience, I present to you Snow White and the Huntsman. Kirsten Stewart as Snow White, Charlize Theron as the Evil Queen, and Chris Hemsworth as Chris Hemsworth. Not the greatest movie, but kind of fun. It's true that Chris Hemsworth saved Snow White at least once, but she is definitely not a damsel in distress. She eventually learns to fight and becomes a leader. Clearly, she is the strong and brave warrior princess version of Snow White. Oh, and there are dwarves there, and they are a lot of fun.
That was the mushrooms.
So since we already have a movie that already did all that and most likely did it better, what is the point of this remake? Would you rather watch a movie with brave and strong Snow White, a merry band of dwarves and Chris Hemsworth, or brave and strong Snow White movie with no dwarves and no Chris Hemsworth? What is the point, Disney? Either do it like the animation or the folk tales, or don't do it at all.